Hiya, I hope you had a lovely weekend. Yesterday I watched a brilliant makeup video that Lisa Eldridge posted, and it's all about her patchwork skin technique. And what she does, rather than using everything everywhere, she just puts certain things where they're needed to get lovely fresh results. And I did my makeup following it yesterday to cover my redness, and I loved it, so I just thought I'd show you the same thing today. That in mind, I'd recommend watching her video. Hers is literally the oracle of information, and this is here's how I made it work for me. So if you click to make this video full screen, the title will come up along the top, click the arrow next to it and a full list of products will drop down. I've put the link to watch it in there. And then also, the thing with this technique is that it's really about using what you've got in your bag. You don't need to buy specifically what I'm using, but just in case you were looking at anything, everything I'm using today is from the high street, so at least you know that you've got kind of affordable options for covering redness. Before I begin, I just want to give you a nice close-up look at my skin. Overall, I'm really happy with it, but I have these little prominent areas of redness. So what I want to do is give a nice fresh wash all over and then secretly give a bit more coverage just to those parts. Now, the whole idea for this technique is that you don't just kind of blindly use everything everywhere. You give each part of your face just what it needs. So I'm going to start with some Ceramidin eye cream all around the eye area so that that's nice and hydrated for my concealer. Then I'm going to use some Avene Aqua-Gel just down the T-zone. Now, this is a really lightweight gel and the T-zone is where I'm most prone to oil. So what this is going to do is make sure that my skin is hydrated and therefore that the makeup will go on really nicely, but it's not going to overload that centre strip with too much moisture. And then on the flip side of the coin, I need all the moisture I can get on the outer parts of the face. So I'm going to use some of the IT Cosmetics Confidence in a Cream. This is a really lovely rich moisturiser. And if you like the CC cream, this is essentially designed to give you all of the hydration and the same kind of soothing properties of the CC cream, but as a skincare step rather than a makeup step. Now that my skincare's on, my first step is going to be the Peaches and Cream Goddess Illuminator, which is really kind of lightweight in texture. It really just feels like a second skin and it adds lots of radiance. Lisa described this, putting the illuminator on first, as kind of being like the undercoat if you were painting a house. But one thing this is lovely for as well is, say like I do have a little bit of texture on those cheeks, if I put it on this early, it means that this will sit under my complexion products and the radiance will show through where I want it to. But if I need to calm it down in any particular areas, I can really customise how much I leave fresh and how much I do decide to just pull it down a bit. Now, just to tidy up off the bat, I'm going to use a little bit of the Maybelline Instant Eye Eraser. That actually looks like loads, but I'm going to spread it right the way out. And I'm going to take this around the eye area. Now, to be honest with you, I don't have loads of discoloration around the eye area, but I can always use just a little bit of brightening in that area. And I often find that this is an area where I need to bridge gaps because I will get a touch of redness around the eyebrows, say, leading onto that nose. And so more often than not, it's just a nice place to make sure all the elements of my makeup are seamlessly linking into one another. And that was the shade 00, by the way. Next up, before I apply my foundation, I'm going to colour correct some of this redness. Now, for the purpose of this video, redness is going to be a focus, but you can really use these tips and adapt them to whatever is going on with your skin. Now, the best way to figure out which colour you're going to colour correct with is to Google the colour wheel, find the colour that you're looking to correct, and find its polar opposite. So for example, on a colour wheel, red and green are complementary colours, which means that if I put green on top of this, it's going to help to neutralise it. Now, I'm going to use the Dr. Jart Cicapair for this. I love this. I recommend it wholeheartedly. One thing I would say, first of all, I'm just going to take the tiniest bit and start patting this in. Because this has gone viral on TikTok, I think that lots of people have bought it and tried it, but I would just remind you that if you're not using it on top of redness, it's kind of obsolete. Like, it doesn't mean that it's not good or it's not a good product, but it just means that you're trying to curl your hair with a straightener or something. So rather than just look and see what everyone's using, I want you to think about what colour you want to correct and then find the best colour for that before you go spending your money anywhere. Now, I put loads on that side, so I'm just patting a tiny bit on the other side because it's quite easy to go overboard with this. You want to be really careful. Now, as you can see, I am literally patting this into the skin just over the red areas, and I'm trying to avoid everywhere else. Another thing I would say to you with this, I've put it straight on and then I'm patting it in, but it's really nice as well if you warm it in the fingertips before you go anywhere near your skin. But either way, I would really recommend this patting motion as being really good to A, get the best results from this, and B, not rub and exacerbate redness, which is just going to get even more red the more it's rubbed and kind of irritated. So really gently here, I'm patting in this green. And another thing that I would say, in particular, if you're using the likes of green, lilac, terracotta, yellow, these kinds of more theatrical looking colours for a more dramatic result, if you apply them straight onto moisturised skin like I've just done, it just helps them to melt that bit more seamlessly into your makeup. And sometimes it's those small application differences that end up giving you a very different finished result. Now, I'm going to put a tiny bit on the chin. And one thing that's a bit of a shame about this, I've got artificial lights on today because it's quite a dull day, but they really show it up quite brightly. Whereas if I was in natural light, this doesn't look as prominent. So you could actually just get away with wearing this. But the next thing I'm going to do is kind of, now that I've got my minty green neutralising that redness, I then want to blur over this whole thing and pull it together with a traditional foundation. So this is the Light Illusion foundation from Flower Beauty. I bought this a few months ago because I love Drew Barrymore and I wanted to see what it was like. Really great coverage, very dewy. If you're dry, you're gonna love it. If you're oily, I would definitely powder it. I would say this is a slightly fuller coverage version of, I mentioned a Suit Q foundation the other day. It's the one that Kristen Davis, makeup artist, uses on her in Sex and the City, and it's really, really beautiful, but it does also cost an arm and a leg. So if you liked the look of that one, this is very similar in that it gives you, you know, a really decent level of coverage, very glowy, and it is a lot more affordable. So using the fingertips, as Lisa did, I'm going to start by, I've just massaged that in anywhere that I didn't put the colour corrector. But now, and I'm warming it up on the back of my hand as I go, if I mix this where I've just put that green, it's just going to all mix in together and there'll have been no point compartmentalising where I put everything. So I'm going to go back in with some pats. And ultimately, I don't necessarily need, I don't need like a full layer everywhere, but just a little wash of this patted over that green will help to make it look a lot more natural. It's so subtle, but can you see how the tiny bit of warmth from that foundation just looks a bit more natural than this side? So I'm going to match up, and again, soft pats, just pat this through. And I can't emphasise enough, I speak to so many people that will say to me, I am using, like, they'll talk me through their routine and it's all brilliant stuff. And they're using amazing brushes and they're using, you know, every single thing. You're listening to it thinking, God, I'd love to ride this makeup bag. It sounds fab. But the difference in the amount of pressure that you use can make a huge difference as to how much coverage you're able to build and how flawless your makeup looks. Because if you rub or press too firmly, you're taking it off rather than building it up. Now, before I powder, I'm going to finish off my creams. I actually forgot to bring in a cream blusher, but I've got my Peaches Cream Contour. So I'm going to warm up the face a tiny bit. Again, I'm going to press this on rather than rubbing it in, because I want it to sit over the coverage I've already built. And I just want it to be a nice, soft little layer of warmth. And then finally, I'm going to set the face. As we can see, the centre of the face is looking shiny. I'm going to eliminate that without disrupting the glow everywhere else. So I'm going to keep things really centred to the centre of the face. Before I do my powder, I just want to quickly touch on, I'm filming on an iPhone. I'm using artificial light today because it's really dull. There's something about powder application that always looks a bit blurred when you do it on camera, and it doesn't matter which powder you use. It's something that I've noticed, especially in the last 12 months. People will say, I don't believe you that you've just applied that powder. And a lot of it is just the way the camera picks it up. So I would say to you, before you buy anything, if you're not sure about how something works, just go to a counter and ask them to try it. Because the reality is, when you apply your powder with this technique, which is to load the brush up and really press it into concentrated areas, you will get great results. Just try it for yourself before you buy anything from anyone. Now, I'm going in with a Real Techniques 402 brush and the Peaches and Cream setting powder. I'm really making sure that I don't go too far onto the cheeks with this, because I want to keep the glow on the outer parts of the cheeks, but just mattify the centre of the face here. And in particular, I'm making sure I go through the kind of lines down here. These places are really likely to get a bit more sweaty than others. I'm sealing in that concealer, very important. And then to finish off the high street theme, this is the L'Oreal Air Volume Mascara that I've not tried, so I thought we could try that to finish everything off. Do you know something? That is absolutely lovely. The brush was really big, so I wasn't expecting it to be that soft, but it's actually just really lengthened everything without being clumpy or over the top. That was lovely. Thank you for watching. I hope it was helpful. And I mean, I'm sure I don't need to tell you about Lisa's YouTube page, but it's just nice sometimes, isn't it, when someone gives you like a new technique that you've not tried and gives you a new way to use everything you've already got. And that's something I want to really make sure I'm emphasising a lot this year, is that even though makeup is so much fun and I love trying new things as much as the next person, honestly, lots of people I speak to have more than enough in their makeup bag to have great results from. So just don't give up on your old tried and tested classics, because using them in a different way or following them in a different order can make all the difference. Let me know what else you'd like to see a video on. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and I'll chat to you soon. Take care.